Good evening, everyone. A stunning and brutal reality check tonight. Some of the worst fears of public health experts now outlined in projections provided to the government and reported today that show the number of daily coronavirus deaths in the U.S. could nearly double to 3,000 a day. With overall COVID deaths in this country pushing towards 70,000, the new analysis could undercut some of the optimism fueling returns to business as usual across the country. Our reporting tonight begins with Peter Alexander.
With more states starting to ease restrictions and reopen their economies, a sobering new projection inside a draft government report from the Trump administration, warning of the possible consequences. Predicting by June 1st, the daily death toll from the coronavirus could nearly double to 3,000, and the number of cases could jump to 200,000 a day. The New York Times obtained the internal document, which cited projections from a Johns Hopkins University model. Former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb says there could be an alarming new reality in some states that are reopening now, despite not seeing a decrease in cases.
As you start to reopen the economy, as people start to interact more, they stop the social distancing, that slow burn of infection could ignite at any point.
It comes as President Trump is revising his projection for the number of lives lost. 2 weeks ago saying the death toll could be as low as 50,000, but on Sunday saying it will likely be significantly higher.
Dan, look, we're going to lose anywhere from 75, 80 to 100,000 people. That's a horrible thing. We shouldn't lose one person over this.
Tonight, the White House and the CDC are disavowing the draft document. The White House saying it's not their document, that it's not gone through interagency vetting, and is not reflective of any of the modeling done by the task force. The creator of the Johns Hopkins model telling the Washington Post the projections were unfinished and not in any way intended to be a forecast, but adding there are reopening scenarios where it could get out of control very quickly. Gottlieb noting cases are expanding in 20 states.
And it may be the case that we have literally tens of thousands of infections every day, and we just have to learn how to reduce our risk and how to live in an environment where the backdrop is that there's going to be continued spread of this virus.
And tonight, another model often cited by the White House is projecting the death toll will reach 134,000. That would mean as many Americans could lose their lives in the months ahead as have died so far. Lester?
All right, Peter, thank you. Even with those troubling new projections, more states are letting businesses reopen despite the risks, while others are taking a more cautious approach, sparking new protests. We get all the latest from NBC's Miguel Almaguer.
Tonight in California, where stay-at-home orders remain in effect, business as usual has never looked so shocking. From restaurants near Los Angeles to cities outside Sacramento, open defiance from local leaders and businesses flouting mandates now 7 weeks old.
We can't stop working. We can't stop living.
With a chorus of protests growing louder across the country, tempers are flaring at capitals.
Let us go back to work.
City centers and on street corners. In New York, a police officer punched a bystander after attempting to enforce social distancing orders. In Michigan, 3 people now charged with killing a security guard who was shot after a dispute with a customer over a face mask. Police are also looking for this man who wiped his nose on a clerk's shirt when asked why he wasn't wearing a face covering. In Arizona, where emergency orders were extended, at least 2 county sheriffs say they won't enforce the measures.
We don't want to create criminals out of innocent people.
But in Chicago, a different message from the mayor after several parties over the weekend.
Don't make us treat you like a criminal. But if you act like a criminal and you violate the law and you refuse to do what is necessary to save lives in the city in the middle of a pandemic, we will take you to jail, period.
Amid warmer weather and growing angst about staying home, today 6 more states partially reopened. In Florida, some shops and restaurants can open with reduced capacity. While Miami remains shut down, beaches in Clearwater are open with people spread out.
In states where the lockdown lingers, it could take months to reopen some businesses, and that is driving the protests and defiance we're seeing across the nation.
We have to respect this process for what it is. It is a killer.
But in Philadelphia, Vita Walker wants demonstrators to remember her husband, James, the Philadelphia police officer who lost his life after getting sick on the job.
even if the whole world opens back up tomorrow, do not just go outside and back to life as normal.
Tonight, the fight to reopen and to save lives. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
I'm Blaine Alexander. As states and now stores start to reopen, things are looking very different. At malls, masks, blocked off areas, and arrows taped to the ground are now the norm, trying to strike that balance between the safety of Americans and the health of the economy. And for some, lining up to get inside, it's working.
We're probably going to get viewed as not doing what we should by getting out, but we're going to do it anyway.
But open malls do not mean open stores. At these two shopping centers near Atlanta, only a handful of stores were open.
Made us realize that things still not normal.
Many of the big chains still shuttered, but Macy's, America's largest department store chain, opened 68 locations today. Most fitting rooms will be closed. Any clothing that is tried on or returned will be held for 24 hours before going back on the shelf. No more services that require close contact, like makeup trials, fittings, and alterations. There will be increased ventilation in all stores and plexiglass barriers at checkout counters. Best Buy will also reopen more than 200 stores this month, but shopping will be by appointment only. Costco is resuming normal hours and requiring that all shoppers cover their faces. Whole Foods will be requesting the same and handing out disposable masks. And more Starbucks locations are brewing again, but for now, it's drive-through and takeout only. Experts say some of the smaller stores may feel pressure to reopen faster because they don't have the online presence or financial cushion of bigger chains. But for all stores, bills are due.
Well, when the mall is shut down, it's easier for those retailers to ask for relief. But when they can be open and the mall has changed protocols so they can be, it's tough to make that ask that you're not quite ready to pay the rent.
And tonight, J.Crew is the first big-name brand to declare bankruptcy. The clothing chain could lose up to $900 million this year. Lester?
All right, Blaine Alexander tonight, thank you. And with the virus forcing some big meat processing plants to shut down, the ripple effect is growing, with major grocery chains now limiting how much meat shoppers can buy. We get more on that story now from Gabe Gutierrez.
With more and more empty shelves, Kroger now says it will limit ground beef and poultry purchases in some of its stores, and Costco is restricting fresh beef, pork, and poultry items to 3 per customer.
I was able to score on one and can't wait to get it on the barbecue.
The CDC says about 5,000 meat and poultry plant workers have contracted coronavirus in 115 plants across 19 states. Social distancing and other measures are now slowing down plants nationwide.
What you see with this is less supplies and higher prices. And whether we're talking beef, pork, chicken, lamb, whatever your favorite is, really, we are already seeing really skyrocketing prices.
After being closed for 2 weeks, this meat processing plant in South Dakota, where hundreds of workers got sick, partially reopened today. It's installed new physical barriers on the production floor and is taking the temperatures of its workers. A closed Tyson plant in Indiana is also set to restart production this week. But a federal strike force is now in Amarillo, Texas, after a surge in COVID-19 cases at local plants there.
They will bring resources, and most importantly, they will bring strategies that they've been using in other beef packing plants.
President Trump has invoked the Defense Production Act to order meat plants to stay open, deeming them essential.
You know, you have plants with no problem at all. Then you have some where it was a hot spot. Those people are tending to get better very quickly.
But some workers say they're scared to go back to work.
It's kind of hard to have social distance and you work side by side. I don't know what they could do to really ease the tension.
Experts say there is no mass food shortage here in the U.S., but they warn panic buying could lead to spot shortages across the country. Lester?
All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thanks. Now to the big changes coming to travel. Airlines now requiring passengers to wear face masks during their entire flight, and a major cruise company already talking about launching new voyages. Here's Tom Costello.
With the nation's airlines fighting for their survival, new rules to keep both crew members and passengers safe. As of today, passengers on JetBlue, Delta, and United must join crew members in wearing masks from the moment they check in. By next Monday, Frontier, American, Alaska, and Southwest will also require masks. Some airlines will provide them to those who don't have them. If passengers refuse, they could be denied boarding. Faith Leonard, newly married on Zoom, was today flying from New York to Georgia.
Some have 3 door around, some are just 2, some of them are completely empty, and most people wearing masks.
Every airline now deep cleaning their planes, enforcing social distancing, and limiting the number of passengers, leaving middle seats open. Southwest CEO Gary Kelly.
We're doing everything we can to make it as safe as humanly possible.
Today, airline stocks slid further after billionaire investor Warren Buffett said he's now sold his airline holdings.
The future is much less clear to me about how the business will turn out.
At Tampa International Airport, passenger volume down a staggering 97%. The airport now encouraging face masks, more cleaning, more hand sanitizer, plastic shields at ticket counters, and floor markings to keep everyone separate.
I would say somewhere between 2 to 4 years before we get back to pre-COVID levels. That's what our forecasters are telling us, and that's what we're planning on.
Meanwhile, Carnival Cruise Line, also in dire straits, now says it hopes to sail on August 1st, despite CDC concerns that cruise ships exacerbate the virus's spread. And Uber asking drivers and passengers to wear masks. Back here at the nation's deserted airports, the numbers are alarming. On Sunday, just 170,000 people flew nationwide. A year ago on the same day, 2.5 million people flew.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.